All right, so a beautiful day here in Malibu. I'm out here with Ariah, still struggling a bit with the voice here, but let me show you what we're thinking. So we're thinking of making something of the waves breaking in this area here. There's some nice shadows that are cast as the waves rise up and a good opportunity for color. What are you thinking, Ariah? Same?
It's beautiful. The water is such a nice color. It's kind of what I want to focus on, as well as the splash against the rocks, and I want to zoom in kind of close on the rocks.
One thing that I always enjoy about your paintings is you paint crashing waves really well. That's something I sort of struggle with. You include spray often, don't you?
I try, if it's not too, it's not too cheesy looking.
Right. And so you're painting on a
20 by 24?
I'll be painting on a 16 by 20 inch panel, and I've got my usual limited palette. I did my initial sketch in burnt sienna, but now I am blocking in some shadow shapes, and these dark shapes here are shadows on the breaking waves, just sort of reinforcing these. These shapes here are the shadow shapes on the rocks, and at this point I am just looking for interesting shapes, and so far I'm liking this pattern. I do feel like I might want to have some additional dark shapes down here. All right, let's see how Ariah is doing. Already getting some spontaneity and color in there.
Yeah, I'm sure you're a lot more further along than I am right now.
Not really, actually. All right, I'm just gonna randomly put some shadow shapes in, and I feel like I want a little bit bigger of a shape here. For the shadows on the white water, I'm going with titanium white and a bit of ultramarine blue, and I'm going with a mid-tone value. I'm leaving the top of the broken wave unpainted, and then there's some in here. There's a bit in here as well. This portion of the beach is pretty steep. And this is the white water as it's rushing back out to sea. And again, just using titanium white and ultramarine blue. Okay, I've mixed up some blue greens here using titanium white, phthalo blue, and some cadmium yellow lemon. Just trying to paint spontaneously as usual. I've added some burnt sienna and cad yellow medium to get some warmth in this area here. The water seems to be a bit warmer in temperature close to the rocks. There are also some of those warmer tones up close here. All right, for the distant water, I'm going with a mix of titanium white, ultramarine blue, a bit of phthalo blue, and a touch of burnt sienna to kind of gray it down a bit. There's an area right in here where it's pretty light in value, and so I'm going to leave that unpainted for now. Added a bit of phthalo blue to push the mix towards blue-green. This value here is too dark, but it's a good starting point. I'm definitely going with an exploratory approach here to paint application. I realize I'll have to reinforce some of my darks, but I'm trying to get some texture into the painting. Adding the light spot in the water out here. All right, for the sky, I've got a mixture of titanium white with a bit of phthalo blue But my brush was kind of dirty, so it grayed down the color a bit, which is okay. And there's a bit of land in the distance here. I've exaggerated the size of the land. It would actually be much smaller, but I want to include it to have something in the distance for the eye to be drawn to. I'm using a number 8 natural bristle flat. I will be switching over to a smaller brush, I'm sure, but not much smaller. Maybe a number 6 natural bristle flat. For the distant land, I'm using ultramarine blue and titanium white. Paying attention to value here. I want the value to be slightly darker than the sky, but lighter than the water. I've added some ultramarine and alizarin crimson to my sand mixture for the transition of dry sand to wet sand. For the dry sand, I've got a mixture of titanium white, burnt sienna, and cadmium yellow medium. And I want to make sure that I keep the value of this sand dark enough that it doesn't compete with the white water. I want the white water to be the brightest or highest value in the painting. I'm going to be adding some blue or purple to this wet sand here. This was just my starting color. There are some cool bluish tones in these rocks, but I want to start out with the warm colors first, and then I'll start looking for some variations. I'm going with fairly thick paint here, still using the number 8 natural bristle flat. And this mixture was made using burnt sienna, permanent red medium, and a little bit of titanium white and cadmium yellow medium. I'm going to start applying some titanium white directly to the painting. I want to lighten up the white water and get a bit of texture into it and variety. I'm leaving some of the initial color. This painting is going to take a long time to dry. All right, now I've got some titanium white with some cadmium yellow lemon. It's nice to have some warm whites playing off the cooler whites. In here as well. Adding some purplish tones by these rocks. And maybe a little bit here too. There's some submerged rocks that are sort of purple in color. Maybe suggest a few out here as well. These edges are too hard here, so I'm going to soften these edges. Maybe this too. All right, so here's what I finished up with. Try to get as much texture into the water as possible, and I try to get some color in there as well. And as I mentioned in the beginning, try to have an interesting light-dark pattern. You pretty close here?
Yeah, I'm gonna call it soon. And just
love the texture. Super thick, which conveys, you know, a sense of motion. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll put a link to Ariah's Instagram down below, so check it out. Also, I'll put a link to my Patreon down below. It's Patreon support. It helps keep me making these videos, and it's much appreciated, so check it out. Other than that, stay creative. I'll see you guys in the next video.